Good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to welcome His Excellency Ambassador Uzumcu to the Royal Society of Chemistry's Chemistry Centre here this evening. We're delighted that in his brief and busy schedule to the UK, he's found the time to visit us and give us what I'm sure is going to be an important and probably challenging message. So this evening presents us with an opportunity to consider the wider aspects of the potential application of chemical knowledge, and we are going to highlight the contributions of the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. The RSC has played a leading role in assisting the UK Parliament during the passage of the Chemical Weapons Act in 1966. An act which the Royal Society of Chemistry strongly supported then and is still committed, it's a no-brainer in many ways, still committed to help implement. And we made many contributions, but let me highlight the role of two individuals, both of whom are here this evening. One is Dr. Tom Inch, former Royal Society of Chemistry Secretary-General, who, with other members of the Royal Society of Chemistry, played a major role in implementing the Chemical Weapons Convention in the UK and its subsequent scientific review in 2003. Dr. Inch's role as chair of the former National Authority Advisory Committee on the Chemical Weapons Convention ensured that the UK government had expert support in reviewing the implementation of this convention and ensuring that it was adhered to. The other individual that I want to highlight is Dr. Tony Bastock, a past president of the Chemical Industries Association, who continued the work of Dr. Inch into the early part of this century. Another highlight in terms of the link between, I'll call it the OPCW and the RSC, has been the generous support provided by the former for the RSC's activity in Africa, in particular linked to our Pan-African Chemistry Network. The OPC's programme to strengthen cooperation in Africa has allowed us to demonstrate the peaceful use of chemistry in many ways for the economic and technological development of its member states. And we've been able to run a whole variety of activities, not least a series of analytical workshops, and we thank the OPCW for that. So this last example, like many others that you can think of, illustrates that the world relies upon chemistry applied effectively but justly. And together with organisations like the OPCW, chemical scientists around the world can help ensure a safe and sustainable future for the world. The next part I'm certainly not going to do justice to, which is very unfair. It's the Ambassador's distinguished diplomatic career. I'll summarise it in terms of a few highlights, but if you look at his website, you'll see the extensive and excellent experience that he has accumulated and the many major contributions he's made. He represented Turkey at the NATO Council, the Conference on Disarmament and the United Nations. And he's been Ambassador of Turkey to Israel. Most recently, he served as the permanent representative of the Republic of Turkey to the United Nations office in Geneva, before being appointed the Director General of the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, taking up this office in July 2010. Therefore, it's a great pleasure that I hand over to His Excellency Ambassador Ahmet Uzumcu.
Professor Dave Garner, immediate past president of the Royal Society of Chemistry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed an honor for me to address the Royal Society of Chemistry, the largest organization of its kind in Europe. The Society's extensive work relating to the promotion of chemistry and to education also contributes significantly to policy making on issues of international importance. I wish to take this opportunity also to convey my appreciation to Professor Garner for his presence and to Ms. Pauline Meekins and her team for organizing this event. Allow me, in addition, to express my sincere gratitude to the Government of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, whose consistent support to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons has contributed greatly to our mission and to making the OPCW an effective international organization. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the emergence of a globalized, interconnected, and interdependent world is both an encouraging and sometimes daunting prospect. Natural disasters, international conflicts, economic and financial crises can often lead us to pessimism. But we must not lose sight of human progress in general, especially in science and technology. Chemistry in particular has had a transforming and positive influence. It has contributed immensely to raising the quality of life and explaining the deep mysteries of our existence. Its scope for bringing sustainable progress and prosperity remains unbounded. Nonetheless, whilst as a global civilization we have reached great heights of scientific accomplishment, for the first time in human history, we have also acquired the means to self-destruct. The military historian Caleb Carr observed that the history of war represents fully half the tale of mankind's social interactions. Given such proclivity for conflict, the ability of science to invent ever more destructive weapons and technologies poses grave dangers. One key lesson of the 20th century is that progress in law and ethics must keep pace with advancements in science and that our survival depends on upholding universal values as opposed to purely national interests. The Charter of the United Nations codified the rules for interstate conduct and established the principles for promoting peace and security in conditions of equality, justice, and human dignity. The right of human beings to live in conditions of peace and security is fundamental. It's also universal. When destruction threatens on a mass scale, weapons of mass destruction are the enemy. Therefore, a consensus is needed to ensure that the world could be made free from them. This consensus has now been revived with regard to nuclear weapons with the ultimate objective of a global zero. Meanwhile, the international community has succeeded in establishing comprehensive prohibitions on both biological and chemical weapons. So in 2011, which we justifiably celebrate as the International Year of Chemistry, the OPCW will promote its message of the collective responsibility that we have to use chemistry for peace and progress. With all the benefits that this scientific discipline has yielded, we need to remember that it has also been used and can again be employed for causing death and destruction on a mass scale. Indeed, chemical weapons are the category of weapons of mass destruction that have been used most frequently. The quest for a permanent and durable solution to one of the greatest challenges to international peace and security spanned the last century. It required for its realization support not just from governments, but also the scientific and academic communities, civil society, and the global chemical industry. The result is a singular international treaty that upholds a key moral and ethical imperative. I want to acknowledge at this here the contributions made by this society during the negotiation phase as well as during the implementation of the Convention. In fact, the Convention is the first multilateral treaty to comprehensively ban an entire category of weapons of mass destruction on a non-discriminatory basis and under conditions of strict verification. Unlike the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the CWC does not create any exceptions to the rule that chemical weapons are prohibited for all countries. All states parties who possess chemical weapons must destroy their stockpiles according to given deadlines. The Convention is a multifaceted tool. Its goals include complete disarmament as well as non-proliferation. It's also the first disarmament treaty to establish an organization that is responsible for a range of programs that cover both verification as well as promotional activities. Here it is distinct from the Biological Weapons Convention, which does not have a verification component and hence no intergovernmental body for oversight. The OPCW therefore oversees the overall implementation of the provisions of the CWC. Together with carrying out the verification tasks entrusted to it, the OPCW provides a forum for consultation and cooperation among states parties, and when needed, facilitates clarification, cooperation, and fact-finding that contribute to confidence building amongst its members. Destruction of chemical weapons being one of our core objectives, the organization has thus far verified the destruction of over 63% of the 71,000 metric tons of chemical weapons stockpiles that were declared by states parties. 3 states declaring possession of chemical weapons, namely Albania, India, and a state party which has requested anonymity, have already completed the destruction of their entire stockpile. The Convention establishes not only the obligation to destroy chemical weapons, but also facilitates the facilities that produce those weapons. To date, all of the 70 declared chemical weapons production facilities have been inactivated, and over 90% of them have either been destroyed or permanently converted for peaceful purposes as allowed under the Convention. The Convention has a unique feature whereby it extends verification to the global chemical industry. Commonly referred to as a non-proliferation tool, the purpose of such verification is to prevent the re-emergence of chemical weapons. The OPCW conducts round-the-year inspections of industrial facilities which produce chemicals that are of relevance to the Convention. The total number of such facilities around the world is in the range of 5,000. These are liable to be inspected, and indeed, those producing chemicals deemed to be of most relevance are regularly inspected by the Secretariat. So far, more than 1,900 such inspections have been carried out around the world in 80 countries. The aim is to ensure that those facilities only operate for the peaceful purposes they were intended for. At the same time, the OPCW implements a monitoring regime over the global exports and imports of chemicals that are relevant to the Convention. In certain cases, such trade is either conditional or prohibited with states that are not parties to the Convention. Member states are required to carefully monitor such transfers and to report relevant information to the OPCW. To streamline procedures and to make this monitoring tool more effective, the organization works closely with the World Customs Organization. While the Convention aims to prevent the abuse of chemistry, it by no means intends to hamper the scientific, economic, or technological development of its parties. On the contrary, under its Article 11, the Convention provides for the promotion of international cooperation in the field of chemical activities for peaceful purposes. In this area, the OPCW has established a wide range of programs. For instance, the OPCW trains chemists and engineers in industrial best practices to safely manage chemicals in a complex industrial environment. We have programs designed to enhance analytical skills in chemistry. Other programs provide funding for research projects and organize internships for qualified people at reputed research institutions. OPCW activities in the area of international cooperation encourage a sense of belonging and a sense of ownership amongst our states parties who represent developing countries or those whose economies are in transition. A related matter, and one that I believe is of particular relevance to this forum, concerns the promotion of ethical norms against the misuse of chemistry. The obligations of the Convention extend through national laws to all citizens of a country, including the individual scientists and engineers. Many chemists, academics, scientists, engineers, technicians, however, have little or no exposure during their training and professional life to the ethical norms and regulatory requirements of the CWC. At the same time, advances in the life sciences are creating enormous opportunities. While their potential for benefit is undisputed, these could also be prone to abuse. Education and awareness raising about the norms and principles enshrined in the CWC are therefore becoming increasingly important. The OPCW is furthermore engaged in a number of important programs designed to promote awareness of the multiple uses of high-risk materials and sensitive know-how and technologies. We promote international collaboration and exchanges among scientists. We encourage awareness of issues relating to transfers of sensitive knowledge, technologies, and materials. We have also been working with the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, IUPAC, to develop a code of conduct for scientists. Through these activities, the organization contributes to a risk-conscious culture among scientists and operators at all levels. Despite the existence and progressive strengthening of clear norms against chemical weapons, criminal or terrorist use of either chemical weapons or the use of toxic chemicals as chemical weapons remains a concern. Especially within the contemporary international security environment, there is a real threat of non-state entities acquiring and using dangerous weapons. In this area, Article 10 of the Convention provides for mechanisms designed to assist states parties, particularly by enhancing their preparedness and capabilities to react to a possible attack involving chemical weapons. A coordination mechanism among member states is envisaged that would mobilize the provision of emergency assistance to the country that has been subjected to a threat of attack or actual attack with chemical weapons. The development of national preparedness and of mechanisms for emergency assistance in case of such an attack is an essential part of the security assurance that state parties receive by joining the Convention. Accordingly, the Secretariat has been working extensively in collaboration with our state parties with a view to ensuring effective emergency response capacity should a need ever arise. Ladies and gentlemen, making the world free from chemical weapons is a challenging task, but we cannot fully reap the fruits of disarmament and non-proliferation without effective domestic implementation of the Convention by all our state parties. In order to derive fully the security benefits that the Convention offers, it's crucial for all state parties to have in place the administrative structures and the domestic legislation necessary to give legal effect to their obligations under the CWC. The Convention sets out a concrete legal framework for disarmament, non-proliferation, and deterrence. And here by deterrence, I mean the ability of states to prevent and, if needed, to prosecute any individuals or entities who contemplate the misuse of toxic chemicals for criminal or terrorist purposes. When OPCW member states fulfill their obligations under the Convention, such measures translate into security enhancement for themselves and for other state parties. Effective national implementation implies leaving no loopholes in domestic legal systems. This involves enactment of penal legislation with respect to prohibited activities, improving border controls, as well as introducing appropriate industry regulations. The OPCW has spared no effort in providing state parties technical assistance in implementing all aspects of the Convention. And here I must acknowledge the generous financial contribution of the European Union and other states parties, including the United Kingdom, in support of a range of OPCW activities. Though the OPCW is not an anti-terrorism agency, the comprehensive prohibition against chemical weapons that it's mandated to promote strengthens our ability to deal with the issue of global terrorism. OPCW's role and contribution in this respect accords entirely with the objectives of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1540. The organization's role is also clearly recognized in the UN Global Counterterrorism Strategy adopted by the UN General Assembly. Allow me now to mention our future challenges. One in the near term relates to the completion of the destruction of chemical weapons by the deadlines established pursuant to the Convention. While over 63% of the declared stockpiles have been destroyed, 37% still remains to be eliminated by April 2012. The challenge is particularly acute in the case of the two major possessor states, Russia and the United States. With the benefit of hindsight, we can say that the task of eliminating huge arsenals of chemical weapons has proven to be far more difficult than the drafters of the Convention could foresee. This is due to the high level of financial and technological resources required to ensure elimination of extremely toxic chemical agents, while ensuring at the same time the health and safety of humans and the protection of the environment. Given the commitment demonstrated by both the United States and the Russian Federation, I remain hopeful that these two countries will not leave any stone unturned in order to uphold their obligation to completely eliminate their chemical weapons stockpile stockpiles within a reasonable time frame, which will have to be determined by the policymaking organs of the OPCW. Another of our challenges relates to the universality of the Convention. Our 188 members represent over 98% of the global population and also 98% of the world's chemical industry. The rate of growth in our membership has been the fastest for any disarmament treaty. It is a symbol of the international community's firm support for the Convention. However, there still remain 7 countries that have not joined the Convention. Universal adherence to the Convention is crucial to the realization of its object and purpose and its ultimate success. We should not allow exceptions to the global ban against chemical weapons. States that choose to remain outside the regime would find themselves increasingly isolated from the mainstream. Their non-adherence will also give rise to legitimate concerns about their intentions. Some of the remaining countries seek to justify their reluctance to join the Convention by reference to unresolved regional problems. These, in my view, are not convincing reasons. These regions would, in any case, be better off without chemical weapons. Ambiguity in this connection can only lead to exacerbation, not the resolution of regional disputes. We will continue to underline to them that given the wide recognition achieved by the CWC, today chemical weapons are not only unacceptable, but also considered illegal under international law. In view of the prospective complete elimination of declared chemical weapons, which is only a matter of time, the question arises as to the future of the organization. It's important to remember that the Convention is not just about eliminating chemical weapons stockpiles. It's a legal framework to ensure that chemistry is never used for military purposes. At a time of breathtaking advances in science and technology, the organization will need to reinforce its industry verification regime. As chemistry, technology, and science develop, and new chemical compounds or production methods are discovered, they could impact the prohibitions under the Convention. We therefore need to be ready to adapt the Convention's mechanisms in order to ensure that its prohibitions remain valid for all times to come. OPCW's policymaking organs will no doubt keep these matters under active consideration, together with the important work that our Scientific Advisory Board has before it to ensure that adjustments in our verification regime keep pace with developments in the field of science and technology. These developments require close study for determining their relevance to the purposes of the Convention, and the Scientific Advisory Board, comprising independent experts, is ideally suited to play this crucial role. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, allow me to say that 2011, the International Year of Chemistry, offers opportunities to forge new relationships, not just to celebrate the achievements of chemistry, but also to ensure that it remains a science of peace and progress to serve the well-being of humanity. In this context, the OPCW plans to organize an event of its own. A conference on international cooperation and chemical safety and security will be held at the OPCW headquarters on 12th and 13th September 2011, and we do look forward to your contributions. This activity will be designed to ensure that the OPCW's work under the Chemical Weapons Convention to guide progress in chemistry towards exclusively peaceful ends is actively promoted. I have recounted today the essence of our progress towards a hard-earned objective and the challenges ahead. The success of instituting a global ban on chemical weapons constitutes a notable landmark in our common aspiration for a peaceful and secure world. Sustaining the noble goals of the Convention requires cooperation among the states parties and the international community at large, including the global scientific and academic communities, as well as the chemical industry. The aspiration of a world free from chemical weapons can only be realized through a high degree of awareness, a shared vision, and a shared sense of responsibility. Scientists, chemists, and chemical engineers worldwide are the first line of defense against abuses of knowledge and skills. The Convention encapsulates the resolve never again to allow the science of chemistry to turn against humanity. In that, its spirit is consistent with the motto of Royal Society of Chemistry, Proscientia et Humanitate, for the sake of knowledge and for the benefit of mankind. It has taken a very long time to achieve an effective global ban on one of the most inhuman types of weapons. Let us work together to ensure that this ban lasts forever. Thank you for your attention.